7, I'm going to go ahead and start recording the session. And we'll get going here in a sec. Okay, we're gonna let Lauren give it another try. So, just while we're waiting on her, how many of you guys found it really challenging? Found the plagiarism tutorial really challenging?
Oh my God.
I cannot pass that.
Okay. I removed it as a requirement to open Module 1. Now, were you guys trying to just go through it piece by piece and find the information, or did you go through the tutorial and actually complete the deal?
I did the tutorial, and then I've gone back and keep looking through. After you take it, it kind of tells you a little bit. I think it's kind of leading towards where you got it wrong, and I still am having issues.
Yeah, here's the goal. It's not really a big hairy deal to me if you don't pass it per se, because some plagiarism is subtle, and honestly, I don't care about that. The main thing that I care about is making sure that you guys cite correctly, and if you know the main difference between paraphrasing and quoting, that's the main thing that I'm concerned about. So that's why I went ahead and decided to remove that as a requirement for Module 1 to open.
Yeah, I just used mine from Dr. Beard's class when I did it. But it took me I think 2 times to pass it.
So you're lucky.
Yes.
I've had people say they've taken it 15, 20 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was getting close to 10 when I was in Beard's summer class. It was pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, the one thing I say is if you haven't taken her class, you are going to have to pass that because she's not going to waive it. So you do have to pass it if you're going to be in any of her classes. But the thing about it is she transfers it over constantly. So once you pass it, you don't have to do it again. So.
Yeah. And it's a good idea. The idea here, I don't think that we do enough of this in our program, and there are a lot of programs where they don't emphasize writing and things like that, and I guess that's fine, and I guess it's okay for us in some of our classes to go through the material and not have to worry about it. But this program belongs to all of us, and one of the things that you guys should all want is for people to come out of this program to write clearly and to be able to represent us all well. So I think that once Dr. Beard came along, I don't know if anybody remembers Dr. Spring. He was the previous director, but once Dr. Beard came along, she put that academic emphasis on there, and I think it's making our program better. So I know it's frustrating. I had to do it too. But it just is what it is, and I think we're going to be better writers for it. Let me see here. I'll wait just a few more minutes before starting. I want to make sure that Lauren actually has a chance to
Mildred, are you in the human resources portion of the MBA?
Yes, I am. I'm actually in my last 2 courses of the MBA.
Okay, good. Because I've only had Dr. Beard once. I'm in just the main MBA. This is actually my last class plus my night class, corporate finance with Siegels.
Yeah, I actually have. I don't have Siegel. I have someone else for my corp, I think.
Do you have it online?
I have it online.
Yeah.
I take online in campus since I'm a GA. So.
No, I like the online because sometimes I don't have time. But just last semester when I took the night class, it wasn't conflicting with anything, so it was fine. But I'd rather do it online.
Sorry, I got dogs.
That's okay.
The delivery man of food's here, so.
Okay, Lauren, I see you. Are you having better luck now?
Layla.
Okay, so right off the bat, before I start the PowerPoint, do you guys have any questions about anything before we dig into that stuff? Are there any things that you guys need cleared up or need any kind of clarity on?
Darren, I just had one question on how the quizzes would work in the modules. Because it was like my understanding that until we score the 7 on the quiz in Module 1, Module 2 won't open up. But, like, what would you say the turnaround time is going to be on getting those graded?
So one of the things that's a radical difference for me in this class is that typically the way I would run the classes is all the assignments would be automatically graded, and so they would we would get through the course. I would monitor activity on the weekends, the discussion board activity, and then on Monday through Wednesday, I'd try to get the discussion boards, and then after that, I would do the writing assignments. So it's going to change my life, but I think that it'll actually smooth out and end up being different because invariably someone's trying to work ahead. So what is going to happen is I have set aside time each evening to actually grade. And so my goal is to have any assignment that you have graded will be, you should expect to have it turned around by midnight on the second day. So if you turn in something anytime on Monday, you should expect that it would be completed by Wednesday. Now, my goal is to go in and grade every day, and I'm prioritizing things that have a deadline approaching. In other words, things where the deadline, that 2-day deadline is on that day. But if I have time and if there's an assignment in there that needs to be graded, even if it's not the deadline, if I'm to it, I will go ahead and grade it. So I will, within my grading period, I'll grade everything that I can, prioritizing the ones that are due that day. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
How's the quiz structured? Is it like multiple choice, short answer?
It's short answer, and really these are easy. Now the quizzes, there's no question bank or anything like that. So the quizzes actually they are based upon everything that we've learned from the E-Myth, from those HBR articles, and then from these talks that we have actually. So everything is free game, and the idea here is that we're just trying to dig in and learn some stuff. So none of it is real conceptual, right? So it's not like explain or what would you do in this situation. It's mainly like compare and contrast, or a lot of just what would typically be bolded, underlined, or italicized. But there are some. The main thing is I want to make sure that you're reading and going through the stuff and that you're kind of synthesizing, but nothing is real challenging. I think each quiz, if you've gone through all the material, each quiz should take you probably 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
Anybody else before we begin?
I had a question while you were talking about the quizzes.
Sure.
I know for the strategy paper, you want us to be as concise as possible. We following those same guidelines in the quizzes, or do you want us to be more elaborate on our answers? Or
I just see the reason why I say that is because I want you guys to not get off focus. So if I were you, I would use that same rule. Make sure that you're focused in on what I'm asking, because sometimes when we start to talk, we just get off track. And then you get on a roll talking about something that I'm not even asking. And we do that in real life too. So I would say try to focus and try to be concise.
Okay, thanks.
A lot of times it'll lend itself to it. So no worries there. Okay, nobody else? All right, so let me change this up here. All right, so you guys should be able to see my desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody who cannot see it?
I got it.
I'm just seeing a black screen.
Okay, hang on.
I see it.
I see it.
Okay, who was saying they only see a black screen?
Chelsea?
All right. I'm not really sure here. I'm looking at.
Yeah, it said it was loading, and I see like your video in the lower right-hand corner, and then everything else is just black, so I'm not really sure.
Hang on one sec. I want to see if there's. I'm just checking to see if there's anything that's obvious. So Chelsea, you can still see the video, but right now you can't see anything else?
Correct. Yeah, I see you, but I don't see your desktop. Like your video went to a small screen on the lower right-hand corner of my screen, and the rest of it's just black.
Okay, hang on.
Oh, hold on. It came up. Oh, now it went away.
Okay, yeah. Let me try it again. I disconnected from everybody, so now can you see it?
It says it's loading.
I think
Yep.
that's what, you got it?
Yep, got it.
Okay, awesome. So now you guys should be seeing a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let's just go through here. This is just, I use this mainly for me, but I have this here for you as well, so that it can kind of guide us and let us just keep me on tracks, because I can get off focus as well, and pretty soon I'm on a roll, and we're not talking about the stuff that we should be talking about. So hang on one sec. I wanted to make sure that I'm not. I just realized that I'm getting emails from people, so. Hang on one sec. Yeah, there's like 4 people who can't get in, so I apologize. I wasn't paying attention to that. Are you all in the same? Which section of the class are you in? Do you guys know?
Oh, I have no clue off the top of my head.
Okay. Let me just.
How do we see that online?
Well,
I'm
it should be
zero
the name of the class. It should be like O2.
Oh yeah, I'm 01.
I'm 012.
Is there anybody who's 02?
I'm 01 as well.
Okay, let me do one more thing, and I apologize for this. It'll go smoothly once we get this going, but I want to do something real quick just to make sure that everybody else can get in. So hang on. You should have lost stuff, but I just want to make sure that everyone can get in. Hang on. I think there might be a challenge with trying to get people to trying to get 2 different classes. I have to make sure that the link is the same for both. Nope, it's sending me to the same one. Let me see here. I apologize, guys. We'll get going here in just a sec. Okay, so let me get back to it here. So you guys should be able to see my desktop again. And so the idea here is this class is going to be a little bit different because typically it's a deal where I just kind of had it set and everybody would cruise through nicely. But as you've learned by the pre-course materials, our goal is to actually have every course in MBA eventually be a competency-based orientation, and that really is where education is leading. In fact, I was just reading about the University of Wisconsin deciding to get rid of their traditional MBA program. The idea was that they realized that that's not what people want, and so this is our version of competency-based, and as we get more tools and more infrastructure, it's going to be radically different, but this is our go at it. So I just want you guys to be patient. I know that there are challenges along the way, but I think that you're going to learn a lot, and life is still going to be good. So when we talk about strategy, well, before we do that, I want to just talk about anything that you guys think you might, any questions that you might have about the course. So the basic deal is you guys are going to work at your own pace. Whenever you are finished with a module, the paper part, same with everything. I should have everything graded within 2 days, and then you should be able to open up the next module. The only thing that really requires you to be a certain place at a certain time are these chats that we're going to have every Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. The idea behind Tuesday is I know that some of you guys have class on Monday and or Wednesday, and so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't conflicting with that. And I also know that it sucks to do things on Saturday and Sunday, so we're not going to do that as well. So Tuesday works best. If you have some kind of a conflict, that's fine. These calls are all going to be recorded, and that will allow you to be able to go back and look at everything. So the other side of this is that there are going to be those leadership assessments, and it's still kind of self-paced, but you don't have to do anything until the end of Mod 7. So you can do it at any time, but at that time you need to do it because that's when you need to have all of those assignments in and those discussions completed with that. So the discussion boards don't work exactly how the other ones worked in the past as well. You don't have to do a discussion each week. What you have to do is just complete those 3 discussions by the end of Chapter 7 or Module 7. And what I want you to do, I gave you instructions on that. So what you're going to do is, first of all, complete that leadership assessment. Then when you're done with the assessment, upload the basically the proof that you've completed that assessment. You're going to get the points for that, so that's great. It's just completion. You'll get the points just for having completed that, and then go in and actually participate in the discussion. Now, if you've taken my classes in the past, it's not quite as intense with making sure that you have to reply and all of that stuff. I just want you to advance the discussion. So I give you those instructions. You do have to actually engage other students, but you don't have any kind of requirement to check back on Friday and all of that kind of stuff. The idea is by the end of the course, I would like to see that you've responded to a couple of your classmates' own self-assessments, and these conversations usually get pretty good, especially when you're talking about things that relate to yourself. But the other side of this is I don't want you to cheap out and just to, I don't want you to say today's the day I'm going to get all my discussion boards, and then you go and post 9 things and you're done. I want you to actually be reading what people are writing and advancing those discussions. That's what really makes up for the in-class participation that we would normally have. So other than that, I think everything is just going to be self-paced. And again, with the writing assignments and the quizzes, what I'm going to do is I will have those, whenever you do the assignments, I'll have them graded by midnight of day 2 after you submit them. Okay? So that's basically how everything is going to work here. You'll notice that in each of the modules, I have the study materials and the skills and practice. So the study materials actually that's everything that I want you to watch and read. So I have a bunch of videos there. I'll actually post these PowerPoints as well, just so that you can have them if you want them. These are just ones that I made to keep me on track, but I'll post them there if you want them. But anything that I want you basically to pay attention to. So all of the handouts that we might go over on these in these discussions will be there as well. What I would do is in that module, prior to us actually talking, or prior to us having our meeting, what I would do is in that module, go ahead and download that stuff so that you can read it, so that you can kind of engage and know what I'm talking about whenever we're having our discussions. But that's how that's going to work. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay, so when you guys think about strategy, what are the things that you think about? What is strategy? And I can't see anything, so if anybody just wants to say what you think strategy is, go ahead and blurt it out. Or why do we need strategy?
To keep things on track.
Okay.
It's kind of like an approach, a well thought out approach too.
Plan for the future.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I hear a lot of good words. We want to make sure that we're on track. It's like a roadmap. We want to make sure that we're meeting our goals. We want to make sure that we actually accomplish what we're trying to accomplish for the future, right? But there's a key component of strategy that I want you to understand. And that is, and when we go here, when we talk about strategy, everyone says goals, plans, and actions, or some variation. But strategy actually is about competitive advantage, and it's about competition. It's about winning. Strategy, I mean, when we look at all of those other things that you guys talked about, those are components of strategy. But really, what's the difference between strategy and logistics, right? When we're talking about strategy, that comes from the Greek word strategos, which really is about winning. It's about competition. It is about beating someone else. So really, that's what corporate strategy is about. The idea here is that we go through this set of actions that actually helps us to put ourselves in a position to beat everybody else. So that ultimately is what it's about. And what we do, we try to develop that competitive advantage, and in order to do that, we have to understand what our value proposition is, and that means that we're going to approach customers on the basis of these things: being able to provide variety, being able to satisfy needs, or being able to provide access where perhaps there hasn't been access, But ultimately, what we're doing is we are trying to figure out how we can do something that other companies are not willing or not able to do. Okay. Now, if you look at that, the Michael Porter, there's a download in Module 1 called What is Strategy? And Michael Porter talks about this concept of organizational effectiveness. And one of the things that I want you guys to understand, especially as you start working through these papers, is that strategy really isn't only organizational effectiveness. Do we care about organizational effectiveness? Absolutely. But I want you to draw the distinction between strategic thinking and organizational effectiveness, because it's easy for us, especially if you're about to finish this program, you're probably developed this new thinking muscle that's focused on organizational effectiveness. How can we make things better? But now we need to actually rise above that a little bit and be a little bit more aggregate, because now we're thinking about strategy and we're thinking, this is the critical thinking part of this. But it's easy to divert back to or revert back to organizational effectiveness. That is not what we're going to be talking about. It is an element. We are going to discuss how it relates basically to strategy, but ultimately what we're after is actually just trying to figure out how we can win. And so we need to focus in on that strategy. Okay? Now, when we talk about the E-Myth, the E-Myth is a book by Michael Gerber, and it basically talks about this concept that we've had, and you guys have probably seen this before, where your grandmother makes great cupcakes, and you say, "Ooh, Grandma, these cupcakes are awesome. You should start a business." Have you guys ever been in that situation?
Definitely.
Yeah.
This is a little bit weird because I can't see faces here, but the E-Myth basically says that just because someone is good at something, they aren't necessarily good at the business of creating that something, right? So the E-Myth is that we think that if someone's great at making cupcakes, that they would be good at making that, they would be good at the business of making cupcakes, and that's not necessarily true, because running a business takes a particular set of skills. I wanted to get my Liam Neeson quote in there, but it's true. Running a business takes a particular set of skills, and it's radically different from what we might think it is. It's not just about being able to do the work that actually facilitated the business in the first place. So the E-Myth said that there are three people: the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. And these people are separate and distinct, right? So the entrepreneur is the aggregate thinker. The entrepreneur, he or she, is the visionary for the business, and they're the ones that actually create the demand for the work. And then you have the middleman, the manager, who actually plans, organizes, leads, and controls the work. And if you studied management in your undergrad, then you know what that framework is. The POLC framework is the framework of management. And then the technician, those are the people who actually do the work. What typically happens is, in the beginning, there is no distinction between these people, but we know that they think separate and distinct, but quite often they're the same person, so that creates a problem. And so what we're going to talk about in the E-Myth is this journey from technician to entrepreneur. So the deal is, the technician has to become an entrepreneur, and they are going to be forced to do some things that they don't really want to do. So, when I consult businesses, this is the mindset that I actually use. And, one of the first things that I'm trying to do is to get people to fire themselves and to hire some people. And so that's a challenge a lot, because the thing is, they feel like I'm asking them to, they're not willing to, they're not willing to let go of what they enjoy, but what they don't realize is that they're not actually working on the business, right? So when Grandma starts this business making the cupcakes, she loves making the cupcakes, and she thinks that every day is about making those cupcakes. But the idea here is, if you're going to start a business, you have to start working on the business and not just the cupcakes. We're going to learn some things as we go through this course about how to basically make Grandma more comfortable actually letting go of this stuff, But there's some things to understand here. Going back to the E-myth, we said that the E-myth is that just because you're good at something that you wouldn't be necessarily good at the business of that something. Now, I'm not saying that you definitely are bad. I'm just saying that being good at the thing does not translate to being good at the business of that thing, right? So one of the things that we have to do is to get grandma to come away from the technical work and to go to the entrepreneurial work. But the problem is, even though this person owns the business, they don't trust because, and you guys are probably like this too, because this is a type A personality type of thing, and they don't trust that people are going to be able to do things the way that they want them to do, right? So they might as well do it themselves. And the other thing is, what typically happens is that an entrepreneur is the person who should be running the business, but quite often the person running the business is the technician who is suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure, as the E-myth likes to call it, right? So that's really what's happening. You have a technician running a business, and so we have to turn that technician into an entrepreneur. And that's really what the journey is about, and that's what we're going to talk about over the course of the next 8 weeks. Now, the other thing is we're going to talk about several journeys, right? The other thing is if you go into the HBR articles, we're also talking about this journey of leadership. How do we become whatever we are to actually becoming a leader? And so we have to understand what the difference is between a leader and a manager. And quite often, I mean, surely we understand that a leader isn't necessarily a manager. So you have people who silently lead by their actions. And we'll talk about some of these things later on. But also we have managers who are horrible leaders, and I'm sure you guys have worked for some of them. So the idea here is that there has to be this journey, because what I consider to be the entrepreneur is also what I consider to be the effective leader. Make sense? So Daniel Goleman wrote about emotional intelligence a few years back, and the thing to understand about emotional intelligence is that emotional intelligence is correlated with just about every leadership effectiveness measure that we could be concerned about, but also it's correlated with just about every organizational effectiveness measure that we could be concerned about as well. And the essence of emotional intelligence is this: how well do I understand my own emotions, and how well can I regulate my own emotions? And how well do I understand what's going on with other people, and how well can I navigate that? See, it's not only just about myself, it's about being able to understand these social cues that are going on with people so that we can know how to respond appropriately. And there are many times, many situations in which responding appropriately makes a difference between winning and losing. So let's talk about some of these factors. So Goleman said that these factors are the factors that contribute to emotional intelligence. Motivation, self-motivation is obvious, but we're going to dig in really on these internal elements and then the elements that relate to other people. Okay, so let's talk about self-awareness. You're going to notice a trend as we go through all of these articles. And these articles really talk about our being honest with ourselves, right? So if you are, I take it that everyone here wants to win. Everyone wants to be successful. And being successful means that we're able to accomplish the goals that we set. And the goals that we set are separate from where we are now. Otherwise, they wouldn't be goals, right? So we want to achieve something. We want to get somewhere. We want to have something that we don't have. We want to be something that we are not now. And so what I'm saying is there's two different points, right? And we know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, but the problem is we're people and we bring in a lot of things that actually cause that line to be a little jagged. So if we are to be successful and we understand where the point is that we want to achieve, so let's assume that that's a physical point somewhere. If we have a false view of where we are, then that journey is going to be shorter or longer than we think it is. And the truth of the matter is that's going to prolong us. It's like a baseball, right? If you throw a baseball and you think that your goal is, your target is closer than it really is, then you throw, you're going to overthrow it. Or if you think that it's further than it really is, then what's going to happen is, I think, did I get that right? No, you would throw short. And if you think it's further, then you're going to overthrow it, right? So the key is the thing that you can control, the goal is where it is, but the thing that you control is where you are now. So we have to understand that. And so self-awareness means that you take an honest look at yourself and understand where you are, because that's the starting place. Self-awareness also builds up self-confidence, and self-awareness helps us to, self-awareness is really the first piece of empathy, because if we understand something about ourselves, it gives us some kind of comparison that we could use to get clarity about other people as well. The next item is self-regulation, impulse control. If you're going to be a leader and a manager, you need to be pragmatic. And the thing is, if you don't have any self-regulation, if you just spout off at the mouth, or if you do things without thinking about them, then it's going to put us in a bad situation if we're not thoughtful. So being able to self-regulate, being able to recognize our emotions helps us. It also helps us to remain principled, because it gives us a touchstone for our integrity. We understand how we should be behaving, and it builds credibility with people. So that's a really good thing. I just put this here because it's about motivation. But the idea with motivation in leaders and emotional intelligence is that people who have high emotional intelligence tend to be highly motivated. They have high intrinsic motivation, right? So that's all we really need to know about that. But let's start talking about how we actually relate to other people. People who have emotional intelligence understand the emotions of others. And when we understand the emotions of others, that gives us the social cue that help us understand how we need to respond to them. And like I said before, that response is critical. If you're trying to get people to do the things that you need them to do, or if you're trying to get them to believe in your vision, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're a visionary, you're sharing that vision. You want people to share that vision to the extent that they can, and they're not going to. They're not going to share it fully like you own it, because if you're the entrepreneur, it means something different to you. And we'll talk about those things in later lessons. But the idea here is, if you have empathy, at least you can understand what people are going through, and that's going to be what informs how you should behave, which is the next part of this, social skill. How do we actually take what we know about other people, and how do we use that empathy and interact with everyone, and not just our subordinates, but everyone, so that we can actually get our goals accomplished. So when we mix all of this together, the idea here is that we're trying to go on this journey that helps us to achieve what we're trying to achieve. The idea here is that we're in it to make money. We're in this business to make money and to compete and to win. But it's not just up to us. We have to rely on people. And so we have to understand how to actually become a good leader, because a good leader is a good entrepreneur. And that's the best way that we can influence the other people to actually share our vision. Now, what we're going to do, the first part of this paper is actually about selecting a company. Now, I actually have the assignment videos, or the assessment videos. I changed the wording because in the world of competency-based education, it's about assessing. But if you guys have taken my classes in the past, there's usually an assignment video that explains what to do. And for this first deal, what I want you to do is select a company. I want you to actually choose a company. If you don't want to, and you want to just try to, if you're thinking about a company that you want to start, that's fine. But I'm telling you that later on it can get frustrating as we're doing some of the analyses, because I'm okay with you making up numbers and making up situations, but it's going to get frustrating. And what I want to see is the language that indicates to me that you know that we're talking about. This is going to be a little bit different than papers you guys have written for me in the past, because we're going to do some analyses, and those analyses can get to be intense. In the beginning, it's going to be fine, but when we get to the value chain, the internal and external part of the SWOT, it gets to be a little testy. So I just want you guys to understand that. But I want you to choose a company that is a free market company. I'd prefer you choose a company that you don't work for. And really, I think that you should choose like a small business or something like that you can go in and talk to and learn some things. We're not going to do research per se, but you're just going to ask some questions of people. And so I think that's the best way to handle it. It's best not to choose big, large companies. We're not going to do any financial analyses or anything like that. In the beginning, you can estimate on market share. I'm okay with that. I'm just trying to get a good feel. Where does this company exist in the market? And, who's winning in that market. But I want you to choose a free market company that has to compete for business. It can be a nonprofit, but it has to be a nonprofit that has to compete for business because that's what we're going to be developing along the way. So you're going to, the assessment video actually talks about those first 3 parts that you're going to write about. But other than that, I think that everything is pretty self-explanatory. So that's really all the stuff that I wanted to talk about this week. But if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them.
Okay, so I already started for the company that I work for, so I should restart.
Okay, so here, let me give you the caveat, and you can work it from there. Is that Brittany?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to get used to these tools here.
Okay.
So the problem with using your own organization is that we suffer from 2 points of view. The first point of view is these are competing points of view, right? So the first one is this benevolent point of view. In your mind, you think that your company does everything well. And so it's like, this is what we did, and you try to even justify what they're doing. I want you to be a third-party analyst. The idea here is that you are a consultant who knows nothing about this company, and you're gaining information from them so that you can write a report. So one good way to remove your bias is to not say to not say this is what we did. So I just want you to remain unbiased. You can do it, and people do it all the time. But
Okay.
just keep in mind that you're going to be trying to justify things when I challenge you, because it might have been something that you participated in, or it might be a policy that you created. So just be aware of that. The other point of view is the cynical point of view. My company sucks and my managers suck, and this is my time that I'm going to burn them, right? And so when we're trying to solve problems, you start with the problem in mind, and you don't really have a non-biased analysis of that problem. So, and that's the biggest challenge that I face with people. So people say the problem at ABC Corp is that they have bad communication. And it's something that you've been wanting to say for years, and now you can. And then I say, no, that's not the problem. The problem is something else. And you say, yeah, they're losing sales because of bad communication, right? So you're not willing to let go of that stuff. So just be aware of your own bias and write as if you are a third party, and you'll be fine. And I will point out your bias along the way if I see it. So
Okay.
you
Awesome.
can do it. Go ahead.
I haven't been there that long, so
Okay.
But yeah, if
Well,
you
good.
point it out, I'll make sure I'll stay away from it.
Maybe this paper might make you quit, or it might make you realize it was a good company to start working for.
Okay, let's hope it's the latter.
Okay. What other questions do you guys have? No one has questions. So I take it you guys are going to email me afterwards with questions in.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Jane?
I don't have any questions, but I will email you if I do.
I know
Yeah,
that.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay.
Yeah, I got started a little bit late. Is it possible to listen back to the beginning of the conversation?
Yeah, Ariel, are you in the first section or the second section of this class? Is it O2 or O1 EL? Like, did I post a new link for you to get on?
I don't think so. I think I'm O2.
Okay, yeah, that should be. Everyone else is O1, but some people had problems getting in the beginning, and so I posted a deal and said, hey, here's a new link, please use this link. You guys actually, I created the wrong link for. I had a dummy link in there, and I didn't realize that I didn't open up the deal for you. So what's going to happen is I'm recording this session, and then I'll post this section in both courses that I'm teaching, so you should be able to see everything.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, who else? All right, well, what
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, awesome. What I will do is I'll actually post this video here in a little bit so you guys can go over it. And as always, I'm available by email or you can text me. Everyone has my cell phone number. If you call me, there's a good chance I won't answer it immediately. So the best thing to do is to just text me and say, hey, Darren, I'm working on this. You can text me anytime. I don't care. Even if I'm sleeping, there might be a chance that I'm awake. I sleep like from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. So there might be a chance that I'm awake. And if I am, I'll answer. If not, then you won't get an answer until the morning. But I don't want you guys to be feeling like you're stuck and you don't have any answers. So by all means, text me and just say, hey, I'm stuck on this. What do you think? How do you think I should approach this? If it's going to be a longer conversation, I'll typically say something like, hey, when can you talk? And then we can go from there. But don't hesitate to reach out to me. But other than that, if you guys don't have any other questions, I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
I did have one question.
All right, go ahead.
Sorry. So for the leadership self-assessments.
This is Tyler, right?
It is. Yep.
Yes.
Thanks for posting the new link. I'm glad I got it.
I'm glad it worked out for you guys.
So for the self-assessments, do you recommend? Obviously, we're talking about emotional intelligence this week. Do you recommend knocking those all out at once, or kind of spacing that out?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't think knocking them all out at once is the way to go. What I would do is emotional intelligence. We talked about it this week, so I'd probably just space it out. I'd probably do like one every couple of weeks, and that way it gives you enough time to really dig in and really understand those components. Because all of these assessments, there are some components to it, right? There are the components that actually compose the elements of whatever that measure is. And so I really want you to kind of understand it. So if you dig in, and the way that I actually ask questions in the discussion boards, it's forcing you to think about those components. So I really just want you to dig in. I don't want you to approach this from the standpoint of how can I get the course done. I'd rather you approach it from the standpoint of how can I learn as much as I can to impact my life later. So that's how I would approach it.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Was there another question? I thought someone else was saying something.
No, they probably were saying goodbye. They were probably saying goodbye.
Okay. Well, awesome. I appreciate you guys taking out the time. I apologize if this was a surprise to you. And if you were in section 2, it definitely was a surprise. I realized that I didn't actually post the date on there, so I apologize for that. But you will have the proper link every week going forward. So good luck, everybody. And by all means, if you ever need me, feel free to reach out. Enjoy your week.
You too. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.